Picture this: a warm summer day, the kind where the sun feels like a gentle embrace rather than an oppressive force. The local fair was in full swing, with colorful tints dotting the landscape, and the air filled with a symphony of laughter, excited chatter, and the distant melody of carnival music. This is where our story begins, where Jamie found himself wandering through the crowds, taking in the sights and sounds of summer joy. Jamie was in his early 20s, with a mop of unruly brown hair that seemed to have a mind of its own and a smile that could light up even the gloomiest of days. He had this infectious enthusiasm about him, the kind that made strangers want to strike up conversations and friends eager to include him in their plans. But Jamie also had a certain clumsiness about him, a charming quality that often led to memorable mishaps and stories worth telling. On this particular day, Jamie was drawn to the ice cream stand like a moth to a flame. It wasn't just any ice cream stand. It was Scoops of Joy, famous throughout the county for their homemade flavors that somehow captured the essence of summer in each lick. The stand was a bustling hub of activity, with a line stretching several yards back, but Jamie didn't mind the wait. The anticipation was part of the experience, and besides, it gave him time to deliberate over the difficult choice that lay ahead. Which flavor would be the perfect companion for this perfect day? As Jamie inched closer to the front of the line, his eyes scanned the colorful array of ice cream tubs displayed behind the glass. There was something magical about this moment, the childlike excitement that bubbled up inside him regardless of how many times he'd stood in this very spot. The sweet scent of waffle cones being freshly made added to the sensory delight, making the wait all the more worthwhile. Finally, it was Jamie's turn. "I'll have a double scoop of the strawberry cheesecake on a waffle cone, please," he said, practically bouncing on his heels. The server, a teenager with a friendly smile, nodded and got to work, expertly scooping generous portions onto the cone. When she handed it over, Jamie felt like he was receiving a precious gift rather than just a simple ice cream. That's when Jamie first noticed him, Alex. Standing just a few people behind in line, Alex had this presence that was impossible to ignore. Tall with sun-kissed skin and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, he exuded a quiet confidence that immediately caught Jamie's attention. Their eyes met briefly, and Jamie felt a flutter in his chest that had nothing to do with the sugar he was about to consume. In his distracted state, Jamie turned a bit too quickly, not noticing the young child who had darted behind him. The collision was minor, but the consequence was catastrophic, at least in the world of ice cream enjoyment. Jamie's perfect double scoop went tumbling to the ground, landing with a sad splat on the dusty fairground. "Oh no!" Jamie exclaimed, looking down at his lost treat with genuine dismay. The child's mother was already apologizing profusely, but Jamie waved it off with a good-natured smile. "Don't worry about it. These things happen," he assured her, though he couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. What happened next was something Jamie could never have anticipated. Alex stepped forward, his own freshly served ice cream cone in hand. A single scoop of what looked like chocolate fudge brownie. With a playful glint in his eye, and without saying a word, Alex extended his cone toward Jamie and took a deliberate, slow lick. Alex said thoughtfully, as if conducting a serious taste test. "Not bad, but I think you might need a second opinion on this flavor." He offered the cone to Jamie, a gesture so unexpected and intimate that it momentarily stunned him into silence. The people around them had fallen quiet, watching this unusual exchange with curious eyes. Jamie felt his cheeks flush, but there was something about Alex's easy confidence that made him brave. With a small smile, Jamie leaned forward and took a tentative taste of Alex's ice cream. "You're right," Jamie said, finding his voice. "Definitely needs more research. Maybe we should get another one to compare notes." Alex's laugh was warm and genuine, the kind that makes you want to be in on the joke. "I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm Alex, by the way." "Jamie," he replied, extending his hand, which Alex shook with a grip that lingered just a moment longer than necessary. The initial awkwardness between them dissolved into laughter as they moved back into the line together. There was something refreshingly direct about Alex, the way he had broken through social conventions with that simple, playful gesture. As they waited for their turn again, they fell into easy conversation, the kind that feels like you're picking up where you left off rather than starting from scratch. "So, strawberry cheesecake, huh?" Alex asked, raising an eyebrow. That's a bold choice for a first impression. Jamie chuckled. What can I say? I'm a complex individual with sophisticated taste. Clearly, Alex responded with a smirk. And now you know my deepest secret. I'm a chocolate fudge brownie guy. Pretty basic, I know. There's nothing basic about a classic, Jamie countered, enjoying the easy banter between them. Besides, it gave me a chance to taste it without committing to a whole cone. Alex's eyes sparkled with amusement. Was that your plan all along? Orchestrate an elaborate ice cream accident just to sample my flavor? You caught me. Jamie played along, raising his hands in mock surrender. It was all an elaborate ruse. By the time they reached the front of the line again, it felt like they'd known each other for much longer than just a few minutes. This time, they both ordered double scoops, Jamie sticking with his strawberry cheesecake and Alex trying the same, claiming he needed to understand Jamie's perspective fully. With fresh ice cream cones in hand, they moved away from the stand, naturally falling into step beside each other. There was an unspoken agreement that their encounter wasn't going to end with just ice cream. The fair stretched out before them, offering countless possibilities for extending this unexpected connection. So, what brings you to the fair today? Jamie asked as they wandered past a ring toss game where children were squealing with delight. Alex took a moment to answer, savoring a bite of his ice cream. Honestly, I just moved to town last month for a job at the hospital. I'm in physical therapy. I figured the fair was a good way to get a feel for the community. He glanced at Jamie. What about you? You seem like a fair veteran. Jamie nodded, feeling a sense of pride at being recognized as a local. Born and raised here. The summer fair is practically a religious experience in this town. I haven't missed one since I was a kid. He paused, then added with a smile, though this is definitely the most interesting one so far. As they continued their stroll through the fairgrounds, their conversation flowed effortlessly from topic to topic. They discovered shared interests in indie music and hiking, debated the merits of different pizza toppings, and exchanged stories about their most embarrassing moments. Jamie's involving an unfortunate karaoke incident, while Alex's centered around a mistaken identity situation at a grocery store. The fair provided the perfect backdrop for their budding connection. They tried their luck at various games, with Alex showing surprising skill at the basketball toss, winning a small stuffed penguin, which he promptly presented to Jamie with an exaggerated bow. Jamie, in turn, demonstrated his expertise at the water gun race, earning a plastic crown which he ceremoniously placed on Alex's head. It suits you, Jamie said, adjusting the crown on Alex's dark curls. Very regal. I've always known I was royalty, Alex replied with a wink. Now I have proof. As the afternoon progressed, they found themselves drawn to the Ferris wheel, its massive structure towering over the fairgrounds. The line was long, but neither seemed to mind. It just meant more time to talk, to learn about each other in this bubble they had created amidst the chaos of the fair. When they finally boarded their car and began the slow ascent, a brief silence fell between them, not uncomfortable, but charged with something neither was quite ready to name. As they reached the top, the wheel paused, giving them a panoramic view of the town below. It's beautiful up here, Alex said softly, his eyes taking in the landscape before shifting to Jamie's face. Jamie nodded, suddenly aware of how close they were sitting, their shoulders touching in the confined space. I've been on this Ferris wheel dozens of times, but somehow it feels different today. Alex's expression grew more serious. Can I tell you something kind of personal, Jamie? Of course, Jamie replied, his curiosity piqued. When I moved here, I was worried about starting over, about finding my place, making connections. Alex's gaze was steady, open. I didn't expect to meet someone like you on a random Tuesday at the fair. Someone who makes me feel like maybe this place could be home. The honesty in Alex's words touched something deep inside Jamie. He'd lived in this town his whole life, surrounded by familiar faces and places, but had often felt a certain loneliness he couldn't quite explain. I know what you mean, he admitted. Sometimes you can be surrounded by people and still feel like you're looking for something, or someone, you haven't found yet. The Ferris wheel began moving again, bringing them back down to earth, but something had shifted between them. A deeper understanding, a recognition of something rare and worth exploring. As they continued their day at the fair, trying different foods, watching performances, and simply enjoying each other's company, Jamie found himself opening up more than he usually did with someone he'd just met. He shared his dreams of one day opening his own graphic design studio, his complicated relationship with his parents who didn't quite understand his creative aspirations, and his fear of settling for a life that was comfortable but not fulfilling. Alex listened with genuine interest, offering insights from his own experiences and encouraging Jamie's ambitions. In turn, Alex revealed his journey, how he'd known from a young age that he wanted to help people heal, his struggle to find acceptance from his traditional family when he came out, and his determination to create a life that was authentically his own. It wasn't easy, Alex explained as they sat on a bench, sharing a funnel cake dusted with powdered sugar. There were times when I thought it would be simpler to just be who they wanted me to be. But I couldn't do it. Living a half-life isn't really living at all. Jamie nodded, feeling a knot form in his stomach. He hadn't been as brave as Alex. While he'd accepted his sexuality years ago, he still found himself censoring parts of his life around certain friends and family members, avoiding potential judgment or uncomfortable questions. It was something he wasn't proud of, this careful navigation of different versions of himself depending on who was watching. As the day began to transition into evening, with the fair lights coming on and casting a magical glow over everything, Jamie felt a growing anxiety. He was enjoying Alex's company more than he had expected, feeling a connection that seemed rare and precious. But the thought of continuing this beyond today, of potentially being seen together in town, of having to explain to friends and family who Alex was to him, it triggered a familiar fear. This internal struggle must have shown on his face because Alex's expression changed, becoming more guarded. "Everything okay? You went quiet all of a sudden." Jamie forced a smile. "Yeah, just thinking about how late it's getting. I should probably head home soon." Alex checked his watch, looking surprised. "Oh, I didn't realize. Time flies, I guess." There was a note of disappointment in his voice that made Jamie's heart twist. They began walking toward the exit, the easy flow of their conversation now replaced with sporadic comments about the fair and the weather. When they reached the parking lot, they stood awkwardly, the magic of their day together seeming to evaporate in the face of reality. "So," Alex said, hands in his pockets. "This was fun." "It really was," Jamie agreed, meaning it with his whole heart despite the conflict raging inside him. "Maybe we could do it again sometime," Alex suggested, his tone casual but his eyes hopeful. "I still have a lot to explore in this town. Could use a local guide." Jamie hesitated, just long enough for Alex to notice. "Sure, that would be great," he finally said, but his enthusiasm didn't quite reach his eyes. Alex nodded slowly, clearly picking up on Jamie's reluctance. "Great. Here, let me give you my number." They exchanged phones, each putting their contact information in the other's device. When they handed them back, their fingers brushed briefly, sending a jolt through Jamie that made his resolution waver. "I'll text you," Jamie promised, though even as he said it, he wasn't sure if he would have the courage to follow through. "I'll look forward to it," Alex replied, his smile a bit sad around the edges, as if he already suspected Jamie's internal conflict. "Thanks for making my day at the fair unforgettable, Jamie." With a final wave, Alex turned and walked toward his car, leaving Jamie standing alone, watching him go and feeling like he was making a terrible mistake. The next few days were torture for Jamie. He couldn't stop thinking about Alex, his laugh, his kindness, the way he'd made Jamie feel seen in a way few others ever had. He drafted countless text messages, but deleted them all, paralyzed by his own fears and insecurities. It wasn't until a week after the fair that Jamie found himself having coffee with his best friend, Mia, who noticed immediately that something was off. "Okay, spill it," she demanded, fixing him with her no-nonsense stare. "You've been moping around and checking your phone every 5 seconds. What's going on?" Jamie sighed, knowing there was no point in trying to hide anything from Mia. She'd been his confidant since high school, the first person he'd come out to, and his most loyal supporter through every up and down. If anyone would understand his current dilemma, it would be her. So he told her everything. About meeting Alex, their perfect day together, and his subsequent retreat into fear and indecision. Mia listened without interrupting, her expression softening as Jamie poured out his heart. When he finished, she reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "Jamie," she said gently, "I love you, but you're being an idiot." He blinked, not expecting that response. "Excuse me. You meet this amazing guy who makes you feel special, who you connect with on a deep level, and you're letting him slip away because you're worried about what other people might think. She shook her head. That doesn't sound like the Jamie I know. It's not that simple, he protested weakly. Actually, it is, Mia countered. Let me explain why this matters so much. You've spent years dimming your light to make others comfortable. Years pretending to be less than who you are because you're afraid of rejection. But Jamie, the people who truly love you, they want you to be happy. And those who would judge you for finding happiness? Their opinions shouldn't dictate your life. Her words hit him hard, forcing him to confront truths he'd been avoiding. But what if? What if what? Mia interrupted. What if you give yourself permission to be happy and it actually works out? What if you find someone who accepts all of you, not just the parts you think are acceptable to show? What if you're missing out on something amazing because you're too scared to reach for it? Jamie sat back in his chair, letting her words sink in. She was right, and deep down, he knew it. He'd been his own biggest obstacle, allowing fear to make his decisions for him. What should I do? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Mia smiled. Text him. Call him. Find him. Whatever you need to do to let him know that you made a mistake and you want another chance. The worst that can happen is he says no. And even that would be better than spending the rest of your life wondering what might have been. That night, after hours of drafting and redrafting, Jamie finally sent a simple message to Alex. I owe you an apology and an explanation. Can we meet? To his surprise and relief, Alex responded almost immediately. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., at Scoops of Joy? Jamie smiled at the reference to where they'd first met. Perfect, he replied, already feeling lighter than he had in days. The next evening, Jamie arrived at the ice cream stand 15 minutes early, his stomach in knots. He spotted Alex before Alex saw him, standing by the counter, looking just as handsome as Jamie remembered, if a bit more guarded. When their eyes met, Jamie felt that same flutter he'd experienced the first time. He approached slowly, suddenly unsure of what to say despite having rehearsed this moment countless times in his head. Hi, he said simply. Hi, Alex replied, his expression unreadable. They ordered their ice cream, strawberry cheesecake for Jamie, chocolate fudge brownie for Alex, and found a quiet table away from the crowd. I'm sorry, Jamie began, deciding that directness was the only way forward. I had an amazing time with you at the fair, and then I got scared and pulled away. Alex nodded, taking a small bite of his ice cream. I figured as much. What were you afraid of? Jamie took a deep breath. Of being seen. Of what people might say or think. Of having to explain to friends and family that I met someone special, a man, and that it matters to me. He paused, gathering his courage. But I realized that I was more afraid of losing the chance to know you better than I am of facing those other fears. Alex was quiet for a moment, considering Jamie's words. I understand being scared, he finally said. Coming out isn't a one-time thing. It's something you do over and over in different contexts. And it's not always easy, even when you're comfortable with who you are. Exactly, Jamie said, relieved that Alex understood. But that doesn't excuse how I acted. You deserved better. Yes, I did, Alex agreed. But there was a softness in his eyes now. So what changed? Jamie smiled, thinking of Mia's blunt wisdom. A good friend reminded me that living half a life isn't really living at all. Someone wise told me that once. Alex's lips quirked up in recognition of his own words from their day at the fair. Sounds like a smart person. He is, Jamie said, holding Alex's gaze. And I'd like the chance to get to know him better, if he's willing to give me another shot. The tension between them began to dissolve as Alex's expression warmed. I think that could be arranged. But I need to know that you're not going to disappear on me again when things get challenging. I can't promise I won't ever be scared, Jamie said honestly. But I can promise that I'll talk to you about it instead of running away. And I can promise that I'm working on being braver, for myself and for the people I care about. Alex reached across the table, offering his hand palm up. Jamie took it without hesitation, feeling the warmth of Alex's skin against his own. In that case, Alex said, I think we should start over. Hi, I'm Alex. I accidentally tasted a stranger's ice cream once and ended up having the best day at the fair of my entire life. Jamie laughed, feeling the weight of the past week lifting from his shoulders. Nice to meet you, Alex. I'm Jamie. I once dropped my ice cream and ended up finding something much sweeter instead. As they sat there, hands linked across the table, Jamie knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would be worth facing if it meant having more days like the one they'd shared at the fair. More moments of connection, of laughter, of being truly seen and accepted. The summer stretched before them, full of promise and possibility. There would be more ice cream, more conversations, more discoveries about each other. There would also be moments of doubt and difficulty, times when Jamie would have to decide whether to hide or to stand proudly beside the person who made his heart race. But for now, in this moment, with Alex's hand in his and the sweet taste of ice cream on his lips, Jamie felt something he hadn't expected to find on that ordinary summer day at the fair, the beginning of something extraordinary. A year later, Jamie and Alex returned to the fair, hand in hand without hesitation or fear. They made a beeline for scoops of joy, ordering their now traditional flavors and laughing about how far they'd come since that first accidental taste test. "You know," Alex said as they strolled through the familiar fairgrounds, "I never told you this, but dropping your ice cream that day was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me." Jamie smiled, squeezing Alex's hand. "I used to think it was an accident, but now I'm not so sure. Some things just seem meant to be." As they approached the Ferris wheel, the place where they'd first begun to see the possibility of something real between them, Jamie felt a profound gratitude for his own courage, for Alex's patience, and for the sweet serendipity of a dropped ice cream cone on a summer day that changed everything. Total _char_count, 17,803.